Welcome to the Data Show. We also have a free newsletter, so do check it out on databeats.community. So today we've got Jacques from CyberSmart, who's here to share some strong opinions about a hot topic, that is CDP versus Reverse ETL. So here we go. Hey Jacques, thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Great to be here.
Of course. So Jacques, tell us a bit about your work. What makes you so passionate about data technologies?
So I work as head of revenue operations at CyberSmart. We're a cybersecurity startup. So my kind of role there is to look at data process and technology for the marketing, sales, and customer experience teams. Obviously, technology is really important for what we do. I need to find technology to enable all of those teams to do the work they need to do. And so, I've it's really important to me that I find technology and I find ways of helping those teams achieve the results they want in as efficient and scalable a way as possible. So really, kind of that's my kind of angle on technology. I'm not interested in technology for technology's sake. I'm interested in technology for the outcome that it provides me.
100%. Me too. So you don't shy away from voicing your opinions, right? What is the deal with reverse ETL tools sometimes being labeled as CDPs?
It's it's frustrating marketing to me. Really, I find it really frustrating. Um, I've got a background in marketing. I can understand why they're doing it, but all it's doing is causing confusion in the CDP market. Um, it's frustrating. They've got a great product that has so many merits that I think causing that frustration in the market doesn't necessarily do them any favors.
Got it. Yeah. And reverse ETL, in my view, is one of the many components of a CDP, of a ready-made CDP. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. It's one of the small, and I think probably one of the smallest parts of what a CDP kind of is capable of doing. I think CDPs obviously can do significantly more, as you already know, and reverse ETL just can do that for CDP. It can do other things as well, which are perhaps more interesting. I think.
Right, right. And I believe CDPs aren't going anywhere anytime soon, right? Do you think even if a lot of organizations adopt reverse ETL tools and data warehouses, will they eventually replace like a ready-made CDP?
I don't think that moment is ever going to happen. I think just the barrier to entry for many businesses to get a data warehouse is very significant. I think most businesses or a lot of businesses will still be using a CRM as their warehouse, right? So I don't think it's necessarily reasonable that everyone will be needing or wanting reverse ETL, much in the same way that most businesses won't necessarily need or want a CDP. They'll probably want a CRM or a CDP or some sort of reverse ETL, but not necessarily all of them, or they may want a combination of them depending on what they're trying to do.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a great segue into my next question. At certain organizations, do you think there's room for a CDP and a reverse ETL to coexist?
Absolutely. That's something that I'm actually exploring right now. We use a CDP, and that's not going anywhere, but we're looking at reverse ETL to replace an iPass product. And actually, it's performing incredibly in that area. I've really enjoyed working in it and testing it. And really, the comparison against iPass is night and day. It's a fantastic product.
Right, cool. I mean, let's talk about iPass then. Do you think reverse ETL can replace iPass at some point?
At some point, I mean, it's doing one thing really well, which is it's getting the data from the warehouse to the destination. One thing that iPass does exceptionally well is doing it the other way, right? So your CRM, your marketing platform, whatever might end up then being the source of the data, sending data somewhere else. So I think that it captures one component particularly, but not necessarily everything else. And there's a lot of maturity in iPads. There's a lot of these tools are built for enterprise in many cases, so there's a lot of maturity that's built up in terms of data security, integration, kind of all of that kind of stuff that is actually very important and meaningful in this market.
Totally. And let's talk about CDP implementation. Like, what do companies really need to implement a CDP successfully, and typically, how long do you think it takes?
It really depends on the CDP and what the organization is trying to get out of it. If I think to my kind of my experience with CDPs, I've primarily used Segment, and where Segment really shines is in their uh, instrumentation kind of libraries. And so my view is right, you need engineers to help you implement that instrumentation. Um, and depending on the complexity of your product, that could take a few days. It could take a lot longer. It really depends what you're trying to do. From a kind of a more operational perspective, it can be really quick to set up because all you need to do is kind of connect your CRM data or connect your email platform data, and suddenly you've got a data flow going into your CDP. So it depends what you're trying to do. You can get a very quick, easy implementation and then build upon it through engineering resource.
Yeah, totally. I 100% agree with you on that. And what about reverse ETL? I mean, what do companies really need to succeed with the reverse ETL tool since you're using one right now?
I've been testing out High Touch to replace an iPass platform. It's been really nice and easy, right? So long as I can connect to my warehouse, which I spoke to my CTO, he gave me a connection user to test it out. Um, I can connect to the warehouse. I can query the data using SQL or some other means, and then actually building out that integration is just really nice and easy. So I think it's a great product in that respect.
Absolutely. That's great to know. So should non-data teams or GTM teams care whether data is made available to them via a CDP or a reverse ETL?
Absolutely not. A GTM team should only really care about what the tool is enabling them to do, not how they're getting data. There are situations where that may change. So, for example, if they want more of a real time data stream, there are things that they're going to have to consider to get that. So, in that kind of respect, maybe a CDP is better to provide that real time data stream than a traditional kind of, well, not traditional or new reverse ETL tool. It really depends on what they're trying to achieve, what outcome they're after, and what trade offs they're able and willing to make in terms of costs and resource and that sort of thing.
Switching gears a little bit, we've seen some CDPs become reverse ETL like, right? Do you think at some point popular CDP vendors will maybe build or buy reverse ETL capabilities?
Oh, it's got to be. Or I'm sure if you were to look inside those companies, they were 100% building those products already. It's a no brainer for them.
Okay, okay. And what are your thoughts on ETL or ELT vendors like Fivetran building or buying reverse ETL capabilities? I mean, they're selling to the same audience, right?
I mean, it makes sense. If you look at, is it Airbyte, I believe? They've purchased ELT and reverse ETL companies. They're looking to do the full thing. It makes sense for anyone in this market to be looking to expand not just unidirectionally, but bidirectionally. Again, it just seems like a bit of a no brainer. It seems like if you can do all of your integration in a single tool, that's kind of what you should be looking to do.
Right, right. Actually, I wasn't going to ask you this question, but now I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you think like companies would want to eventually just pay for one data integration tool, or do you think companies will be happy to pay separately for ETL, reverse ETL, CDP, iPass, etc.?
I'm in two minds about this, right? Because there's that constant cycle of bundling versus unbundling, which is really interesting to kind of follow. But there is significant amount of value in having a single tool that does things. The trade off, of course, is that actually that single tool may not be as good as dedicated point solutions. So it's just balancing those trade offs versus what your actual requirements are. I think there's space for both to exist. With the money that was kind of sloshing around in the data kind of area, at the tail end of last year, start of this year, these companies are 100% going to be investing in purchasing companies that broaden them into more of a bundled suite. And they'll be looking to be acquired by the big players to create more bundled solutions. So there's room for both, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the market as consolidation probably happens.
Right, right. And a related question, right? With the rise of warehouse native apps, right? Do you think reverse ETL vendors should try to diversify their offerings? Go beyond moving data. Can they somehow maybe even enable traditional SaaS companies to become warehouse native?
That's a really interesting kind of angle. You know what? I'm not 100% sure where they can go, to be honest. The reality is that not every tool in the future is going to be built to integrate directly with the warehouse. And there's going to be, you look at your Salesforce marketing clouds, your Marketos, these tools are very unlikely to be changing their entire infrastructure in the near future, right? So there is 100% a market that is going to remain on warehouse hosted on kind of actual app hosted kind of platforms for a very long time. So there's a significant market that's going to remain. Whether or not that market ends up shrinking or growing, I'm not sure. I imagine it's going to grow in the near future, right? The market right now for warehouse native tools is minuscule. I'd be surprised if it was even 1% of the total market. Um, so there's definitely things that will happen, but I can't get out a crystal ball and see what that's going to be. It's going to be in 10 plus years, I think, if we'll see any kind of significant movement there.
Well, awesome, Jacques. This has been so great. Last question for you. What's your advice for companies that are contemplating whether to go with a ready-made CDP or a reverse ETL?
I think look at your use case. Don't look at the technology. Look at what you're trying to achieve, and then score the technology against that. Focus on outcomes is it's the most important thing I can kind of say is just focus on the outcome that you're trying to achieve. Don't focus on the technology.
Yeah, 100%. I'd also add that think about the needs of your teams. Give them
Mm,
the tools they're comfortable using, because
absolutely.
technology is no good if nobody uses them, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jacques. Thanks again for answering my questions and sharing your insights. You have a great day. Help bridge the gap between data people and non-data people. Join us on databeats.community.